Hello viewers, you're watching the Question Hour show from the Parliament House complex, the show where we bring you important unstart questions asked by the members of the upper house in the previous sessions of the Rajya Sabha. I'm Kriti Mishra and joining me is my colleague Rajat Kane.
Well, thanks Kriti and thanks to your viewers for watching this edition of Question Hour Rajya Sabha TV. We hope you're doing good in the times of this coronavirus pandemic.
Well, absolutely, Rajat, that is of paramount importance. But as you know, Question Hour is a very important tool in India's parliamentary democracy because it gives an opportunity to the members of the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha to seek and elicit answers from the government. There are different types of questions, the start questions, the unstart questions and also the short notice questions. Start questions are those questions of which answers are given orally on the floor of the House by the government.
The other category is the unstart questions, where answers are deemed to be considered and laid on the table of the House at the end of the proceedings of the day.
And our show will focus on all important unstart questions asked by the members of the upper house in the previous sessions and the reply given by the government in written format. So Rajat, let's begin the show. And the first question in this edition of the Question Hour show is from member Revati Raman Singh, and this question pertains to the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare. And the member has asked the government whether farmers can become self-dependent by opting farming of jute.
Giving an elaborate reply to the query, the ministry said the jute is predominantly cultivated in states of West Bengal, Assam and Bihar. The normal area under jute is 7.25 lakh hectares in the country and mostly grown in sequence of food crops, whereas sanai, which is the other category of crop, is cultivated for green manure as well as fiber crop and is grown in the ground 10 to 11,000 hectare area in the states of Odisha, Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, West Bengal and Rajasthan. Now these crops are mostly grown by small and marginal farmers for a period of 3 to 4 months in a year and undertake such activities along with other crops for sustained livelihood. With increased use of natural jute and allied fiber products worldwide, there is a potential for increasing requirement of raw jute and sinai in India for manufacturing of finished product. Jute packaging material compulsory use in Packaging Commodities Act 1987, or in short it's referred to as JPM Act, provides provisions for compulsory use of jute packaging materials in supply and distribution of certain commodities in the interest of production of raw jute and jute packaging material and of persons engaged in production thereof and for matters concerned therewith. Now, as per the current provisions of the Act, it provides 100% of food grains and 20% of sugar to the compulsory packed in jute bags. The Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare is implementing jute and allied fiber development programs under National Food Security Mission in 9 major jute growing states, which are Andhra, Assam, Bihar, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Odisha, Tripura, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal from 2014-15 with an aim for enhancing production and productivity. Now, besides, National Jute Board, which is under the aegis of Ministry of Textile, is also implementing a project Jute I Care, that is improved cultivation and advanced retting exercise from the year 2015-16 for enhancing jute cultivation. Well, moving on to the next question that was asked by member Tiruchi Siva from Ministry of Ayush, and member sought details of scientific basis for treatments and precautions given to combat new coronavirus through a notification, and also whether there has been any research done by Ministry of Ayush on the effectiveness of treatments and precautionary methods suggested, and lastly the details of such research backing for treatment and precautionary measures that has been suggested, if any.
So this question was asked by member Tiruchi Siva in the last session of Parliament. But since then, a lot has changed in the world and in India as well. But let's take a look at what the government replied to this question at that point in time. So the government said that Ayurveda, Unani, Homeopathy and Siddha are advocated for health promotion and prevention of diseases. And as such, the advisory in terms of Ayurveda, Unani, Homeopathy, Siddha, that's general in nature, and people should follow general measures as per the health advisory. However, in view of the positive results from the genus Epidemicus, as during epidemic outbreaks of various diseases during the recent past, Scientific Advisory Board of the Council discussed to find out possible genus Epidemicus for recent outbreak of coronavirus. The signs and symptoms of the patients were referred from the recent publication from the clinical history of patients in Wuhan in Lancet title clinical features of patients infected with 2019 novel coronavirus in Wuhan, China. In fact, Rajat, keeping in view the social distancing norms, member Tiruchi Siva joined us through a virtual platform. And this is what he had to say on government's response to his question, and also he made certain suggestions to the government. Take a look. And joining us on the Question Hour show is Rajya Sabha MP, Mr. Tiruchi Siva. Sir, welcome to Rajya Sabha Television, and thank you so much for joining us through this virtual platform in the era of social distancing.
Good evening, Ms. Kiti. How are you doing?
All well, sir. I hope that all well at your end as well.
Yeah.
Sir,
all are the same in every place across the world.
That's right, sir. That's right. And in fact, your question also focuses on the same thing. Though you had asked this question in the last session of Parliament, which was about the remedies for coronavirus, and the government had given a detailed reply, your take on government's response, sir?
We are still not aware when we will be back to the normal person. It's a very big question. It is said that until otherwise a vaccine is foolproof vaccine comes into existence or a medicine comes into use, we don't have a result. We don't have an answer that we would come out of it. People say that by October it would go to the peak and by March will flatten. All these are speculations. But I feel that one day a good news may come, that because all the countries are very keenly working. I want to be positive. Even that may come tomorrow. Let us think like that. Let us be optimistic. Good news may come that a vaccine has been come into force. Until that date, people have to keep themselves safe. The government have to take care of all the hospitals are flooded. And even in the hospital, what the treatment is given, if you ask, you will get a reply, nothing, no specific treatment is being given. Because there is no medicine for that. So confining any person or quarantining themselves is a treatment. And developing immunity by way of taking native foods is also a suggested one. And apart from this thing, which of course people have realized and they have developed an awareness that they have to maintain social distancing, wear masks if they go out, sanitize their hands and all. But the impact, the economy is a very big question. The rotation of money in the people's hand. So this is the government's responsibility.
So what are your suggestions to the government, sir?
Two sectors have to be strengthened rather than diluting. One is agriculture. Very, very seriously it has to be taken care of. And second is public sector. Private sectors are there. They might have added boost to your economy. But not at the time of help, when help is needed. Who comes to the rescue? It's only the public sector. Right. And moreover, the profit which the public sector earns comes to the government coffers and it goes back to the people again. So I suggest that government should pay a compensation to the people who are depending, who don't have any work, and that is a basic thing, and see to that essential commodities reach them without any scarcity. And third is healthcare must be provided. Hospitals should be, and the equipments which are necessary for testing and treating must be increased on pace.
Absolutely, Mr. Siva, you made a very important point there. And thank you so much for sharing your details and your thoughts on this very important issue and joining us on Rajya Sabha Television through virtual platform. Thanks for speaking to us, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And moving on, the next question pertains to the Ministry of Coal. And this question has been asked by member Prabhakar Reddy, Vemi Reddy. And the member has asked the government about the details of critical factors for coal production in the country and to what extent the ministry is able to address each of these critical factors.
In the response, the ministry said the major critical factors for coal production include land acquisition, physical possession of land, rehabilitation and resettlement issues, forestry clearances, environmental clearances, evacuation or logistic infrastructure. Now, the focus of government is on accelerating domestic production of coal through allocation of more coal blocks, pursuing with Ministry of Environment and Forest for early environmental clearance and state governments for assistance in land acquisition and coordinated efforts with railways for putting in place suitable evacuation infrastructure. Now, due to persistent efforts of government, all India raw coal production has increased from 565.77 metric tons in the year 2013-14 to to 730.35 metric tons in 2018-19. Now, absolute increase in all India coal production during period was 164.58 metric tons as compared to increase of 73.01 metric tons achieved in preceding 5 years, that is from the year 2008-9 to 2013-14. Now, Coal India Limited has also increased its production from 462.41 metric tons in 2013-14 to 606.89 metric tons in 2018-19, an absolute increase of 144.48 metric tons as compared to increase of coal production of 58.68 between the period of 2008-9 to 2013-14. Well, moving on to next question that was asked member Amar Shankar Sable from Ministry of Communication. The member sought about the status of providing Wi-Fi in the villages across country through GramNet and especially in Karnataka.
While giving a detailed reply to this question, the government says that under the BharatNet project, earlier known as National Optical Fibre Network, all the 250,000 Gram Panchayats of the country are planned to be provided with broadband connectivity. As part of the BharatNet project, the last mile connectivity through Wi-Fi or any other suitable broadband technology to access broadband or internet services is to be provided at all 2.5 lakh Gram Panchayats in the country. As of now, Wi-Fi hotspots that have been installed in 45,769 Gram Panchayats, including Gram Panchayats connected through satellite media, and out of them services are being provided in 16,151, and also in Karnataka specifically, the government answers that Wi-Fi has been installed in 2,569 Gram Panchayats, out of which services have been provided in 1,854 Gram Panchayats. The government also says that Wi-Fi hotspots are being provided by CSE Governance Services India Limited, SPV under METI, which is Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India, and RISL, a PSU of State Government of Rajasthan under phase 1 of BharatNet project. And talking about the next question that was asked by member Kumari Selja, and this question pertains to the Ministry of Culture. And the member has asked whether 7 zonal cultural centres or CZCC are making any progress in terms of protecting local art forms, and if so, the details thereof.
In the reply, the ministry said to protect, promote and preserve the various forms of folk art and culture, including local art forms throughout the country. The Government of India has set up several zonal cultural centres with headquarters at Patiala, Nagpur, Udaipur, Prayagraj, Kolkata, Dimapur and Tanjavur. Now, these zonal cultural centres organize various cultural activities and programs on regular basis all over India to protect, preserve and promote and document various art forms. Now, 630 art forms have so far been documented by these centres in the form of audio, video and literature. During 2018-19, the centre at Prayagraj has incurred 9.08 lakhs in various cultural activities like Atulya Bharat, Gurugram Kala Utsav, Geeta Jayanti, Teej Festival and Swang Utsav, whereas centre at Patiala has incurred 67.27 lakhs on activities like Mela Kapal Mochan, International Geeta Mahotsav, cultural program at Brahma Sarovar, Kavi Sammelan and Haryanvi Sang Utsav in Haryana. Now, moving on to next question that was asked by member Devendra Paul Watts from Ministry of Consumer Affairs. Now, he asked about whether the government has proposed to review the country's food policy, especially distribution system, to achieve zero hunger across India.
Well, several measures have been announced by the government during the coronavirus pandemic, including measures under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. But this reply was given in the last session of Parliament, and let's see what the government replied at that point in time. So the government said that there is no proposal to review the country's food policy. Government of India enacted National Food Security Act or NFSA, which came into force with effect from July 2030. Now, this act provides for coverage of up to 75% of rural population and up to 50% of urban population for receiving food grains under targeted public distribution system, thus covering about 2/3 of the population of the country for receiving food grains at 1, 2 or 3 rupees per kg for cereals, wheat and rice respectively. Identification of beneficiaries under the act is under 2 categories: households covered under Antyodaya Anna Yojana and priority households within the coverage determined for the state or the union territory. While priority households are entitled to receive 5 kg per person per month, the other households, which constitute the poorest of the poor, continue to receive 35 kg of food grains per household per month. At present, the Act is being implemented in all the states and UTs covering about 80 crore people to get highly subsidized food grains. The coverage under the Act is substantially high to ensure that all the vulnerable and needy sections of the society get its benefit. The government further says that it makes additional allocation of food grains for natural calamities based on the requests of state governments or UTs, and as per the extent norms, in case of natural calamities, the allocation of food grains for 3 months of demand can be made to the states and UTs on the basis of requests received, so that relief measures are not affected in that particular state or union territory. Let's move on to the last question of this edition of the Question Hour show, which has been asked by member Harshvardhan Singh Dungarpur, and this question pertains to the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. And the member has asked whether during 2002 to 2012, government has implemented the National Disease Surveillance Project with World Bank funding, and if so, the details thereof.
Well, in a detailed response, the ministry said a pilot project National Surveillance Program for Communicable Disease was launched during the year 97-98 in 5 districts of the country, and later on it was extended to 101 districts. The project was coordinated by National Centre for Disease Control, which is formerly known as National Institute for Disease Control. Thereafter, the Expenditure Finance Committee approved the proposal for Integrated Disease Surveillance Project on 23rd March 2004 with an outlay of 408.36 crore, with 75% share coming from World Bank through soft credit under International Development Assistance. Now, Integrated Disease Surveillance Project was launched in November 2004. The World Bank assistance was available for project implementation in all states and union territories in a phased manner. The project development objective was to improve the information available to the government, health services and private health care providers on a set of high priority and risk factors with a view to improving on-the-ground response of such disease and risk factors. Now, health is a state subject and the information is collected by local health authorities, which include various departments like food, water, hygiene and animal husbandry. It's being used for policy making or advancement as well. Well, that's it in this edition of Question Hour. Thanks for watching this program on Rajya Sabha TV.
Do take care and stay safe.